Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to our newest edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME. I'm your host, the coach Nick Vesci. I'm joined, as always, by the boy, Stephen Vesci, and the man, Stephen Comlow.
Hello.
If you're new to us, just a quick recap. We try to take the most eye-catching, noteworthy stories and events that happen throughout the sports world, kind of sum them up for you, and go take some deep dives into some interesting topics that maybe you didn't notice and weren't paying attention to. As for our socials, you can always follow us there too, at WCME_sports on our Instagram and our X/Twitter. Also, go to our Facebook page. You can also go to our website, WCMEsports.com, for latest news updates and places to watch and listen, which are available on YouTube and Spotify.
And your bonus catches.
And our bonus catches. That's a good one. Yeah, we're going to be, putting our bonus catches online on our website. For those of you who go and visit our website, you can see those. Those are the things that don't make our show, but definitely worth, seeing, and were eye-catching events from the last week.
And if you're new, welcome, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wherever you are. I know. Shout out to Guatemala.
Yeah.
We see you, Guatemala.
Yeah, we got a strong Guatemalan audience.
Yes, we do. Our top catch this week, our first thing, biggest thing that caught our eye, would be the debut of pitching prospect Paul Skenes for the Pittsburgh Pirates. All right, he was the number one overall pick last year, correct, boy? 2023's.
Yes, he won the College World Series at LSU.
At LSU, yep. After he had transferred from the Air Force Academy. He's 6'6", right-handed pitcher. Used to be a catcher. Just found that out this week. Didn't realize that was a catcher and was a hell of a hitter, but just his arm talent was so undeniable. This is the path he chose to go down, and it's really paid off for him. He made it to the big leagues in no time, and maybe 12 games he started, I think, was about what he had in the minor leagues, if that. And he made his debut Saturday for the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Chicago Cubs. Went 4 innings, struck out 7, gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, threw 84 pitches, which was a career high at the time. So you might look at that stat line, it's a little deceiving. He only pitched 4 innings. This was his longest outing as a professional. Obviously, threw more in college at LSU, but as a pro, this was the furthest he was stretched pitches-wise. And maybe the biggest eye-catching thing from it is he threw 17 pitches that were over 100 miles an hour. His fastball averaged at 100.1 miles per hour, which is the highest average fastball of any pitcher they've tracked so far as a starter this year by at least half a mile per hour. So he was throwing gas, and one of the things that I noticed was how effortless his gas looked. You see these guys put max effort to get to this point, a lot of them. But I think part of it is his pure athleticism, and his big 6'6" frame is so built that 101 was just effortless, and was able to locate it too. Because you see a lot of guys go up there and they're trying to blow people away, and the ball's flying all over the place. They're Nukalush hitting the bull over there, right? But he's not. He's a locator of the ball, which makes him that much more effective. So I thought that was kind of cool. Kamala?
Do you think that his pitch count was limited because his velocity is so high? Like at this day and age of starting pitcher after starting pitcher after starting pitcher throughout the MLB, it's like a sweeping epidemic that starting pitchers are going down and hurting themselves. I mean, do you think that the Pittsburgh Pirates are just trying to be careful with their new toy?
Well, they're definitely trying to be careful. It's not because of how hard he throws. It's because of how young he is, and he hasn't pitched every 5 days until this year. In college, you pitch every 7 days.
Yeah.
This is the first year of doing that. That's also why he stayed in AAA for 12 starts. Everyone was like, "Oh, he should have been up." Well, you have to stretch him out. You have to get him going and get him loose. That's why they're being so careful with it. You're going to invest a lot of time and money into him, and he's 23, 22, something like that. So he'll work his way up. Probably next start he'll get to 90 pitches, then he'll get up to 100.
Too, though, don't you think? He's not stretched out, so they do in a sense need to be careful with him because the injury bug.
His gas is effortless, like what Nick said, which is different from these other guys that are going max effort, and that's why you're seeing them blow out elbows. I heard, I think Glass now talking about how you will gladly blow out an elbow to go max effort and miss a year, whatever it is, but just to you can punch out whoever and throw a 98, 99. His is a different level of gas to where he doesn't have to reach back too hard to throw that. He kind of just lets it eat.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that is underrated about him is because the velocity jumps out. That's the eye popping thing. Is you look at the radar gun, but he has two really good secondary pitches: a slider. Oh, it's a wipeout slider, and he throws what's called a splinker. It's a cross between a splitter and a sinker, and only one other pitcher in the majors right now is throwing that, and that's Twins closer, All-Star closer Johan Duran, who throws that splinker.
Yeah, I heard him talking about the splinker today, and he was saying that he's trying to throw a sinker, but it doesn't run. So then it drops. Basically, he's talked to hitters and catchers that he's faced, and basically they're like, it doesn't move in to the right-handed batter. It just drops down. So he's throwing a sinker that acts like a splitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, Kamal, to your point about being careful with the toy, I think you'll see a similar approach to what you saw when the Nationals called up Steven Strasburg, because their statistics in the minor leagues were eerily similar, like almost to the exact number of like just ERA, WHIP, innings pitched, that type of thing. They were both number one overall picks, and when they came out, it was kind of like they don't have anything, like we can't find holes to not bring them up, was kind of how Strasburg got there. But then you have to have this guy with you on your major league roster because you're basically just wasting him in AAA. There's nothing that he's not going to improve because he's already shown that he is fully capable. So you bring him up, but you can't just blow his arm out, right? You like Stevie said, you're every fifth day as opposed to every seventh day. You're not getting the same rest. You're going through a grind. The season's a lot longer, so you got to figure out a way to get this guy who's never done it before to the finish line, because that's obviously what you want. And you want to avoid, well, we brought him up and 2 months later he blew his elbow out, and now we're going to wait 2 seasons to see him again. And what if our competition window is closed? Like, what if the Pirates go on a run with some of their young talent that they have, and now their best arm weapon is sidelined? So they're trying to do that balance, which is what the Nats did, and the Nats got a lot of flack for it. And the Nationals and the fans will point out that, we won in 2019, so it was worth it. But that was so many years after they had they shut Strasburg down at the end of the year because they said, he reached his innings limit, he reached his pitch limit and all this stuff. And they had a team full like Jason Worth and all those guys, and it kind of screwed them.
Yeah, I didn't understand the Nats doing that at the end of the year because the guy is stretched out. You've done your stuff. You've done your limitations during the season. It's the playoffs. Well, got to win a World Series. Come on.
That's the thing too, is at the end of the day, right? You play to win the game. Hello, Herm, right? So if you're going to bring them up, you're going to go through all that, like you said, Stevie. How could you then just tell all the guys that all these professionals, all these men whose careers have time limits, they're not going to play forever, that this kid's done, right? So I wonder if you're going to see a lot of 3-4 inning outings from Paul Skenes, because you saw that in AAA. You didn't see him go like 8 innings. You saw him going 3, 4, 5 innings.
Would the Pirates ever consider making him a reliever?
So he was a reliever at Air Force. He was closing games for them. And I think the reason he became a starter was because it behooved the team more to have him there, because you can control from the beginning of the game, whereas a reliever is so team dependent. Like if your team stinks, you never having a chance to save a game means nothing. So I think that's the crux of the issue is, we could do it. He probably would be willing to and would have the mental fortitude to do it because he has been in that position before and has the stuff to do it. It's just, are we wasting him here?
Right. Yeah. The way I would see it is like, let's say because now they have 3 very good to dominant starters with Skenes, Jones, and Mitch Keller. If I would say if they do get into the postseason, I would probably guess that Skenes could move to the back end of the bullpen. Because what's like you get to the postseason and you're only throwing him 5 innings at the most, maybe.
And sometimes you're pitching on 3 days rest. It'd be almost hypocritical that we didn't stretch this guy enough, but now we're going to throw him on 3 days rest.
Right.
And it's like
I could see him go into the bullpen and pitch every other game for an inning or two. Yeah,
I could see that as well. Anything else from Skenes stuff before we get into the rest of that game?
The Seiya Suzuki. Oh my God, that was the like, okay, welcome to the show moment. I feel like for Skenes, like, yeah, he's here, he's the real deal. That first batter, it's the jitters. He still struck him out, went to a 3-2 count, threw 100 miles an hour. But the Seiya Suzuki at bat, he threw a 96 mile an hour something down the middle. I don't know what it was. And then he throws an 87 mile an hour slider that was just ridiculous, and then throws an 84 mile an hour slurve frisbee wiffle ball, whatever the hell it was, and made Seiya just look like an absolute fool. Seiya looked bad that entire game, but I felt like that was he's the real deal.
Yeah. I mean, it brought up Strasburg. It was arguably the most hyped pitching debut since Strasburg. Obviously, Strasburg had a little more success. I think he went like 7 innings, struck out double
14.
digits.
Yeah, struck out 14.
But what was interesting, the leadoff hitter, Strasburg's debut was against the Pirates. The leadoff hitter for the Pirates that day was Andrew McCutchen. The leadoff hitter for the Pirates in Paul Skenes' debut was Andrew McCutchen. So kind of nice symmetry there. But the rest of that game actually was nuts. So Skenes left in the 5th inning. He pitched 4 full innings, came out for the 5th, gave up 2 quick hits, and was pulled. Right. After that, the Pirates relievers, while Pittsburgh is up 6-1, mind you, Pirates relievers proceed to load the bases and then issue 6 bases loaded walks in the 1 inning. 6 times they walked someone with the bases loaded. I believe one reliever came out and threw 12 straight balls with the bases loaded.
What the?
I mean, it's Little League.
It went from 6-1 Pittsburgh. You got your stud on the mound. And not to be outdone with the craziness here, in the middle of the inning, it went to a 2-hour and 20-minute rain delay. So we started this inning off looking at Paul Skenes, gives up a couple hits. Oh, we take him out. We're all clapping. And then madness ensues. And, let's go get some drinks because we'll be here a while because we're delayed for a couple hours. And picked back up. And by the time the inning had ended, the Cubs went from being down 6-1 to up 8-6. All in 1 inning, all from all of these bases loaded walks, which is nuts, right? It doesn't happen. Right? Like you said, boy, Little League stuff, right? Then in the bottom half of that inning, so we're still in the 5th inning, mind you. This is probably 3 hours after the inning started. Journeyman catcher Yasmani Grandal comes up for the Pirates and rips a 3-run homer to put the Buccos back on top 9-8. Then the aforementioned great Andrew McCutchen, the next inning adds a solo shot to go up 10-8, and the Pirates somehow hold on for a 10-9 victory. So, wanted the McCutchen references because we all love McCutchen. Yeah. But I thought that was just a crazy game. That was one of the reasons I wanted to start off with his debut, is because it wasn't the story didn't just end when he left the mound. It ended after McCutchen's final blow and
does Skenes still get credit for the win?
No,
he has to go 5.
You have to go 5 innings as a starter. But interesting, you bring that up. There's also a thing if you don't go 5 innings as a starter, the official scorer gets to choose who earns the win. So it's not just the next person that takes over. So like if you are leaving the game and it's 3-3 and you pitch 4 innings, and it stays 3-3 for the next 5 for like inning 5 and 6. Let's say 7th inning comes on and your team takes the lead and you hold them. The official scorer can rule that you earn the win because they say, you're the pitcher of record because we took the lead, but technically that they have the ability to rule who deserved to win or not. Most of the time it's just that simple scenario where you were on the mound, you last pitched and your team took the lead, so you get the win. But it doesn't always work that way. I found that out. going through some stat lines. But that was our top catch this week. Now, moving on to our playoff update. As you guys hopefully are aware from listening the last few weeks, we are in the throes of it for the NHL and the NBA playoffs. We're in the middle of the second round. None of the series have finished, which is nice. We like to see that nice, grind of a series going on. But we're closing in on some of these getting to the end. So just a couple updates for us in the NHL. You have the Rangers. They're leading the Hurricanes 3-2. They did start off with a 3-0 series. They didn't have blown the last 2 games. The Panthers, they're leading the Bruins 3-1. Boston took the first game. Florida's roared back with 3 straight behind.
I told you that
Bobrovsky.
I told you they had to shake the rust off.
Yep. Out west, the Vancouver Canucks, they lead the Edmonton Oilers 2-1 in their series, and the Stars with their victory last night are leading the Colorado Avalanche 3-1. Over in the NBA leading Celtics are ahead on the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were without Donovan Mitchell last night. They're up 3-1. The Knicks and the Pacers are tied at 2-2 after New York took the first 2. Indiana stormed back for the next 2. Same thing happened over with the Nuggets and Timberwolves. They're tied at 2-2. Minnesota took the first 2 in Denver. Denver stole the next 2 in Minnesota. So they head back to Denver, tied at 2-2. And the Thunder and the Mavs are also tied 2-2 after the Thunder had a nice comeback last night to defeat the Mavericks. Wrapping up that West. Thoughts, boys?
I mean, I'd like to start with hockey because I got some stuff to talk about with hockey. Obviously, I think it goes without. I mean, you need to talk about Nichushkin, right, from the Colorado Avalanche.
Valeri Nichushkin, yes.
Yeah, Valeri Nichushkin entering stage 3 of the NHL Players Assistance Program. 6-month minimum suspension without pay. Allegedly, this hasn't been confirmed by the team or any of Nichushkin's reps, but allegedly he failed a drug test an hour before Game 4. And that's why he's going into stage 3, because he had just gotten out of stage 2, I think, like 6 months ago, maybe even sooner than that. But if you're not familiar with the Players Assistance Program, essentially it's a joint venture between the Players Association and the league, and it was formed to help players with mental health, mental wellness, abuse, substance abuse. It's not just exclusive to the players; it's open to the families of players as well. But Nichushkin, I mean, if it's true that he failed a drug test after just getting out of stage 2, I mean, the dude definitely qualifies for the Players Assistance Program because the dude's got to be fighting some demons. I mean, I feel bad for him, but if you can't stay off the sauce, whatever it is, long enough to compete in the playoffs and be there for your team, I think that's textbook problem behavior. Yeah. I was going to say addiction behavior, but and that dramatically changes the landscape of that series because Nichushkin is, I believe he's like a top 10 point producer in the playoffs.
He was tied for the playoff leading goals at 9 at the time.
He's the dude produces, and then I mean the team gets the gut punch of that news an hour before puck drop, and then they get demolished by the Stars in that game too. So I mean it's something, it's sad, you hate to see it, but damn.
Yeah. Yeah, that almost feels like you said, a gut punch, like a death knell for the Avalanche, because they're already, I thought, up against it. I thought the Stars are more talented, even with 100%. MacKinnon and McCarr out there. The Stars have the goalie advantage. They have that mix of youth and veteran leadership that you look for. Really, when you're looking at some of these playoff teams, you're like, well, who has the chances to win? The teams that I first looked at were like, well, who has the best mix? And the Stars have that. We mentioned, I think last week, some of the old graybeards like Pavelski and Ben and Sagan. They have Matt Duchene, but those guys aren't the dudes. It's Rupe Hintz, it's Jason Robertson, it's Heiskanen. Those are the guys who are the producers. Wyatt Johnston, Is that his name? He just turned 21 last night, right after the game. Those are the guys who have been racking up the points. But it's nice because you have those
Johnson's
veterans.
got 7 goals too in 11 games this playoff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that you have these veterans that can kind of guide them, and that the eyes of like the casual fan are on them, which takes the pressure off these young kids who aren't as well known, but they're the stars. The stars.
Good one.
It's one of the reasons you pay your vets, right? Like not necessarily because like once they get up there in age, they stop producing, but that leadership, it's almost like you're paying them to pass the torch and mold these guys that are coming up from the AHL, from the draft, to like teach them how to be an NHL player, right?
All they need is young minds for modeling.
Yeah, there you go. But like also in that, I mean, like Colorado, I mean, like Nichushkin's issues aside, they must be dealing with a lot of like distractions in that locker room. Makar has been absent. I don't think he has a point this series, let alone maybe the playoffs. I don't know what he did in the first round, but Makar has not looked like the Cale Makar that we've seen in the last year and a half.
Well,
Devin Taves is out sick. Landeskog is... People are still talking and writing about Landeskog coming back. He's not coming back anytime soon.
He's been
out for 2 years.
That's a big blow. That's your captain. But what I would say for Makar, and this is not a knock on how good of a player he is, but in the playoffs, the grinders a lot of times get things done, right? And Makar,
it's garbage time.
Is an offensive defenseman if you've ever seen one, right? He's like Nick Lidstrom out there. He's the second coming of Nick Lidstrom, Erik Karlsson, right?
Good reference.
But those guys, for them to be successful in the playoffs, have to have a bruiser like a Chara, a Mark Stahl, a Luke Shen, who's over there on the other side. Or is he still on the Stars? I saw him out there for someone. Maybe he's not on them. I think Predators actually. But a bruiser, a guy who goes out there, a Jacob Trouba, and you have to have that complement in the playoffs. In the regular season, Makar can get away with some of these things. But in the playoffs, as a defenseman, your primary job is to defend. And that could take someone like him out of his game because that's not always what he's doing.
Blocked shots win games.
Yeah.
They got to figure it out because they're down. Avs are down 3-1 in the series. It's looking like the Reaper's coming for them, man. They don't look good. I mean, and as a defending or as like a former like championship team that has like the same core more or less, you would expect a lot more than them. You would expect to at least see them in like the championship series.
Yeah, I'm almost ready to stick a fork in them and say that one's done. Does it then Nichushkin blow?
I would be fine with
that. The Nichushkin blow, I think, is the kicker there.
That's the knife.
Elsewhere, Rangers Hurricanes. I don't know if you saw, but the Rangers won Game 2 in double overtime and then Game 3 in overtime. Our boy Pat, reporter in the field, did he come back and say something to you?
No,
that was awesome.
Sitting behind the bench.
No, he was just sitting behind the bench. He was right. He was probably on TV for a solid 30 seconds of real time, right behind Brindamore.
Anytime they showed Rod the Bod, he was there.
Yeah, man, if there was no glass, he could have spit right on those guys. He was that close.
I would not mess with Rod the Bod. That dude looks
he would literally.
I don't know if those are good seats though, because you're staring at the back of the bench, the players' heads. I mean, you gotta really work
You probably hear some stuff.
That's
too.
true.
I mean,
you are hearing stuff.
That angle would be cool to see, like what they're looking at on the iPad. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, challenge it, coach! Challenge it.
He
said he was talking,
not bench glass.
He said he was talking trash to Zibanejad. He said he was like public enemy number 1 for some reason. I don't know why.
Because he's good. You don't boo nobodies. Don't boo nobodies.
That's the lifeblood of the Rangers team is Zibanejad.
But I mean, after the Rangers jumped out to that 3 games and lead, the last 2 games they've looked listless.
Yeah, I've looking at that. The Rangers 5-on-5, I didn't think, I was like, all right, well, it's not that big of a deal if you play even goals, you're fine, and then you get your special teams and you're that much better and you can still win the series. Their 5-on-5 is a problem. And when Carolina, all they did was just stop committing stupid penalties. That's all they've done. They stopped chucking at the net and getting better quality, and then they've stopped committing dumb penalties. And their 5-on-5, their defense has been phenomenal. 5-on-5, that last game, no one got into the slot at all. There were no passes. Everything was a bad angle. I don't know too much about hockey, but I know sports and how defense is played. When you create the bad angle, like that goalie's got, I mean, there's not a shot to be made. It's very difficult to get shots in. It's very difficult to get the passes in. They were just forcing them underneath the net, and just nothing got to the center.
I think Carolina made a lot of critical adjustments. I mean, obviously they're critical because they're fighting for their life right now, but Carolina made a lot of really critical adjustments, and I think that in the last 2 games we've seen them kind of play the Rangers game. You're seeing a lot more like east to west movement to open up those north to south lanes, and the Rangers, I think they found out pretty early on that like prevent defense that they played against the Capitals, that like 4-1 with essentially like 4 defenders and 1 like attacker, when they have the lead, it doesn't work out against a team that can match you speed for speed. But so I think this is an interesting series. I think Carolina's got that dog in them, and I think they're hungry.
Well, yeah, you saw a hungrier team, and a lot of times desperation brings that out, right? And you're desperate when you're down 3-0. You're not desperate when you're up 3-0, and that's what makes closing out and sweeping someone that difficult. That's why this whole round you're not going to see a single sweep, because it's just so hard to do that. But
I mean,
that'll be the Rangers thing. Is their key adjustment is probably less X's and O's and more mental. What is our mindset? How do we come out? I feel like the last couple of games, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see our boy Rempe out there.
He was there last game. He was out there last game.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely been like, his minutes are very limited, and if he gets a sweater, because I think he's been healthy scratch for a couple games.
That's
now,
what I thought.
If he gets a sweater, his minutes are very, very selective.
They are, but
a very tight leash.
I wonder if that's an adjustment. Is because that's someone who plays with desperation. Their whole existence is that, because if that guy's not doing it, he won't get out there. He doesn't know the next time he's dressing. Whereas Panarin, with his garbage, back checks out there, giving up 2 goals. I mean, he was the culprit. His poor defense gave up the game-winning goals, I think, in the last 2 games. That guy's not playing with desperation. That's not like the type of player he is. But a Rempe, who is such an instigator and agitator, one thing he does is brings energy, right? But it also is a distraction to the other team. If he's effective out there,
they're always looking for him,
as opposed to doing other stuff, right?
He was out there. The matchup, like you don't want to put your like Sebastian Aho or your Stalls out there on the ice when Rempe's out there, right? You're gonna pick your 4th line guys to throw out when Rempe's on the ice, and then when Rempe comes off, that's when we're gonna put our star lineup out.
Well, he was out there last game, but I think Carolina has been playing way more disciplined. There were very few times where, like, I mean, they kind of gave him a little "I'm here all day" kind of shots after a couple whistles, but he's out there. They're just not falling for the bait, pretty much. I think Carolina's being way more disciplined. I don't really think the officials have let them play that much more. I think it's just Carolina not doing anything stupid.
I think, also, like, I think it's going to be kind of a backhanded compliment to the Rangers, is that they are such a good team, but I feel like they know how good they are. And I think that hubris kind of creeps in, like how they, like, you saw them. I mean, 0-0 game, first period and a half. They're hungry, they're fighting, they're in it, and then they scored that shorthanded goal, and it was like, my first thought is whenever I see a shorthanded goal is, God damn it, and then my second thought is, I hope they still realize they still have a penalty to kill.
Yeah,
you can't get like all excited. Like, I feel like there's a certain amount of like hubris that comes with scoring a shorthanded goal, where it's like, oh, we could score whenever we want, And I think that could be kind of their Achilles heel.
Well, the Rangers do lead the playoffs in shorthanded goals. They have
like
crap
5.
ton. Yeah. So I don't know if that's necessarily what they were thinking because they've done it enough. But I think with like kind of to your point though, they were like resting on their laurels, thinking, all right, we got the lead. We'll play prevent defense. It's, they won't come back. We got maybe the greatest goalie in the world right now, and we'll kind of sit back and play not to lose. And you can't play not to lose against a hungry team.
Yeah, we said it last week. Can't play not to lose. It always hurts you.
Hungry dogs run faster.
Yes. Thank you, Griswold. Speaking of defense and hunger, you saw a pretty good amount of that. Knicks Pacers. I'll start with them. The defensive intensity is up there. And we talked about this the Knicks before about Thibodeau is such a great defensive coach and how a lot of those kids coming from Jay Wright's system are taught these fundamentals. But a lot of these games you've seen guys flying around, and part of that is the playoffs. But the other part of it is the desperation of the type of guys that are out there, like an OG Anunoby who's all energy, who unfortunately has gotten hurt. But, and just a straight energy dude. Josh Hart, straight energy dude. A TJ McConnell out there. This is the guy who has to be pure energy for the Pacers, or else he doesn't have a job, right? You talk about desperation. There's a lot of those dudes out on the Knicks and the Pacers who are, I don't want to say cast-offs, but guys who are on, teams that they're happy to be in the NBA, right? And so they're going to throw this desperation out there, and that's part of the beauty of the playoffs is you get to see guys like Josh Hart just blossom, right? And do things that you wouldn't notice in the regular season, right? A DiVincenzo going out there and Obi Toppin for the Pacers, right? Guys who, may have been big time picks or big time college guys, but in the NBA, they're often seen as just another dude, but go out there and the energy and the intensity is through the roof. And it's not just about, let me score the bucket. It's about, my on-ball defense. It's about my hedge on the pick and roll. It's about my help side, right? And it's about shooting. That is arguably the biggest thing that separates it. Even with the great defense, the team that scores the most points is going to win the game, right? But thank you, John Madden. Spoiler alert if you didn't know that. But a 3-point shooting percentage is, maybe that's the stat we need to look at the most. That's one of the things that I look at when I look at a box score is what they shoot from three. Because that is such an equalizer and a decision maker and a turning point in these games. And I think that series being tied at 2-2, I'm willing to bet that in each of those 4 games, the team that shot better from 3-1. Right? It's kind of, and everything kind of works inside out too. I noticed that Indiana, the Pacers. The Pacers play, and you may be about to say this with Halliburton. He gets all the headlines, but his biggest asset is actually his floater in the lane, because once he gets that floater working, it collapses the defense, and he kicks out and makes the right read to his shooters, and his shooters got to knock it down. Miles Turner's got to knock that down. Him being such a stretch 4 and 5 is such a big difference, right? These guys got to knock these threes down for it to be effective, and the last 2 games have been doing that. I think at one point they're up like 40 points on the Knicks in game 4. So
I was gonna say Indiana forces you off the 3-point line. They don't help on defense. They play one-on-one like it's your man. They play really, really hard defense, and I'm actually surprised at this level that they do that, and they're able to play one-on-one the way they are. Even though I think they've given up 120 points a couple times or whatever, but it happens in the NBA. But they don't allow you to shoot the 3.
Yeah, and then they also have. I said the guys who they just look hungry to me in Indiana, but guys who like fit being able to guard multiple positions and guard out there, right? You have McConnell and Nembhard out there is another grinder. Topic can guard so many different people. Pascal Siakam, very underrated. Another hungry dude who for his whole career has just been an afterthought. For whatever reason, he's arguably the best power forward in the NBA. And I don't think that's that hyperbolic of a statement to say. But you've got guys out there who've got a chip on their shoulder who are playing, like you said, that great one-on-one defense, and they can match up. Like the individual matchups fit each team pretty well. Like it's pretty even, I think, from a matchup standpoint of this guy guarding this guy. and the skills and abilities. That's why when the Knicks went up 2-0, I didn't think that we would see a sweep. I'm not shocked at all that this series is tied 2-2. I would not be shocked at all if this goes 7 and you see an overtime game winner in Game 7.
Yeah, I was shocked that Nembhard made that 3 because it looked like Knicks were going to go up 3-0, and I don't think it would have been a sweep either. But that 3, he was 1 for 7. I think he looked bad in that game, and you can see even on the 3, he bobbles the ball. They played great defense. He's like, I don't know, 35 feet out. And it was just a desperation heave because he had to throw it up, and it goes in. You can see it on the faces of Brunson and McBride and all of the Knicks players, just dejected. And it was like that was it. That was the turning point.
The Knicks shot better from 3 in Game 3.
They should have won that game.
Well, I would say they did. They should have won that. That Nembhard 3 was, you don't say one play swings a game.
But that's the only outlier.
I think that one play swings
the other games,
series.
Nick, you're right. Games 1, 2, and 4, the team that shot better from 3 won.
And I think that's kind of on the whole a statistic that you could look at for really any game. Again, the team that shoots better wins the game, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not always the case. Some teams want to force the other team to shoot a lot of threes because they think that even if they make a lot, if they shoot a good percentage, will execute in certain ways that they can't. We'll get to the free throw line more. We'll cause foul trouble. We'll cause disruptions. We'll cause turnovers because we're playing aggressive defense. But I think in that series, the supporting cast, and I said this before with the Knicks, that's going to be the difference. It's not going to be Brunson. Brunson was a little hobbled. I think it was like Game 2 or 3. But he's still effective, right? But I don't think that's where the series is going to be won and lost. I don't think it's going to be won and lost with Tyrese Halliburton versus Jalen Brunson, even though that's the way they want to portray it because, we want to promote our stars and all that. It's going to be won or lost with like DiVincenzo and Hart versus McConnell and Siakam type of grind. And like, who's going to make the little play? Who's going to make that, earn that jump ball? Who's going to win the jump ball, right? Who's going to make that, throw the ball back in off the guy's foot and regain a possession for us, right? Who's going to execute offensively and take the right shot, jump, stop, and make a good decision? I think those in this series in particular, more than any of the other series, that's going to be the difference in the winner and loser. And that's why I think this is going to be a grind to 7. And
I'm on board. I buy it.
Yeah, and I like these.
But aren't like all the NBA series except for except for one tied right now 2-2?
They are. Celtics are up 3-1. That could easily be 2-2. That one is probably done because without Donovan Mitchell, even though the Cavs played such a tough game last night, without Mitchell, they can't keep up with the scoring. Even with Porzingis being out for the Celtics, which I think is going to prevent them from winning the title if he doesn't come back. The Tatum and Brown and all the rest of those guys out there, Pritchard, Derek White, it's just even the ageless one, Al Horford. There's too much scoring. There's just too much shooting. Even if Al Horford's a defensive liability, the Cavs just can't. They're not there yet. Even though again they have some good pieces. Darius Garland is really good. He's a really good point guard. It's just you got to have the guy, and your guy is Donovan Mitchell. But you've seen some guys step up for them because they're also Jared Allen's been out, their rim protector. So, Evan Mobley's played great for them. Max Strus, you got the shooter. So you got pieces in place. If you had Mitchell for an upset with Porzingis being out, you had the pieces, but without Mitchell, that's going to be rough. So I could see that one ending pretty quick.
Yeah, the Knicks Pacers it feels like it's ultimate team on each side. Each of them feels like it's just a team sport. And then I flip on the Boston game, and it's just Tatum one-on-one. I'm like, this is the NBA I know. This makes more sense. They're chucking threes. Their whole thing is live and die by the 3. Well, Tatum goes one-on-one. I don't know. I don't like watching Boston.
You're seeing a byproduct of not having Porzingis out there.
Is that what it is?
And that's the difference is Porzingis creates more ball movement, creates better scoring opportunities. And Tatum and Brown do take their man one-on-one a lot because they're excellent one-on-one players. Tatum is such a good contested three-point shooter, especially with his height. So him taking those shots, he's like one of those guys you go, no, yes. And you go, okay, well, I see him make it 3 times in a row, so he must be doing it right. But with Porzingis out there, you get a little more of the inside out going, you get a little bit more movement, and you get more open threes because of that. And that's the Al Horford, as great of a NBA career as he's had, and as great of a shooter as he's actually made himself into, which is kind of an amazing thing because this guy, I don't even know if he ever took a jump shot when he was in college, right, at Florida. But he's made himself into such a good shooter. He still is not able to replicate what you're missing from Porzingis. Like Porzingis does these certain things, and they're trying to use a combination of Horford and Luke Cornett, big 7+ foot dude, I think from Vanderbilt. And it's working for them in this series, but it's not going to be the solution to win a championship. You're going to run into one of these teams out west who's got, like Jokic out there, or like Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, or even like Chet Holmgren. And you could run into any of those guys, and you got to have your Porzingis. You got to have your guy to match up with them, because without that matchup's going to get exploited. The Cavaliers don't have that. Evan Mobley's played great, but he's not there yet, because you got to make in a jump shooting perspective, he's not there yet. He's more of running the floor, disrupting, blocking shots, rebounds, putbacks, making the right cut. He's more of that type of player now. But you got to have your dude, your guy who stretches the floor, your guy who can score inside and outside and relieves the scoring pressure. And that's the biggest thing, is relieving the scoring pressure from Tatum and Brown, so they're not having to take all of those really contested jumpers, because that's not sustainable against a Nuggets. That's not sustainable against a Timberwolves or a Thunder.
Yeah, if they win this series, which it looks like they probably will, do they have a timetable on Porzingis?
I didn't see anything. I just saw out for the foreseeable future.
I saw out for playoffs.
I didn't think he was done. I thought there was a chance. I thought they were hesitant to say he was completely done.
I mean, if you win this next game, you get a couple extra days without playing.
But I will say he has the same injury that Giannis had, and Giannis didn't play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So he's at least out this round. He's probably out next round. So if they can get to the finals and he comes back, I think they got a shot at it. But I don't think they can win the finals without him. You need that extra piece, and that he's such a critical component of what they do. The other series I know we talked about last week was Nuggets Timberwolves. And yeah, boy, this we were all over our T-Wolves, and they looked fantastic in the first 2 games.
They're mortal. They bleed.
Well, no, it's that, but it's also the heart of a champion, right? If the Nuggets weren't champions and such recent champions with the same dudes around them, they're 3-time MVP. These guys who should have the mental strength and the resilience to overcome this. If it's not them, this series may have finished already. But you've got pride out there in Jokic and Murray and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter and all these other dudes like Christian Braun out there. Is Reggie Jackson, is he out there with them? I think he is, playing some nice defense off the bench still. But you've got guys with like real championship pedigree and pride. So I was not surprised that the Nuggets were able to come back and even this series. The way in which they did it, a little surprising, is they blew the doors off of Minnesota in Game 3, and they kind of handled their business pretty easy in Game 4 as well, both on the road. So that's a little surprising, but that speaks to their championship pedigree, right?
To me, I caught glimpses of Game 4. To me, it seemed like the Nuggets went into that game almost like what a strategy like UConn and did in March Madness, right? We're gonna let Ant Edwards get his, but we're gonna neutralize everybody else. Ant Edwards went for 44 points in that game, and it still, I don't even think, was that close of a game.
No,
I think the next closest person in points had 15.
Yeah, I think 13. Karl Anthony Towns had 13.
Yeah, which is not enough. I mean, that's supposed to be your other guy who you bank on 20, 25 a night, and barely squeaking out 13 is not going to cut it. But that's what championship teams do, is they make adjustments. And the Timberwolves, maybe they're not there yet. Maybe everyone anointed them a little too soon. I still think the winner of this series is the best team left in the playoffs overall. I still think the winner of this series wins the championship. It's just, everything is punch, counter punch, right? Your boy Belichick was the best at that, making halftime adjustments, right? What's Minnesota's adjustment now? You're in a best of 3 series. When it's 2-2, it's best of 3, right? Who wins 2 games first? So what are the adjustments you're going to take to make that, right? To get those 2 games.
Yeah, you got to get your role players in. I mean, Towns has to shoot better.
Yeah, I think that's number one.
I think Conlo's spot on with that. They don't let other people beat you. Edwards is going to get his. He's that good. He's going to get his.
So, I wonder if you see Minnesota come out in the next game and they make a concerted effort to feed other people. Like maybe they make a concerted effort to get Rudy Gobert a couple quick, easy buckets early on. Maybe they run their opening sets for Karl Anthony Towns as opposed to, letting Edwards dictate what's happening. Maybe you do that even if it's not producing buckets at that moment. It's like putting it back in the mind, right? It's like when you show a play in football, like we showed the fake end around after we handed off. Now my DN's got to be wary of it. If we make these guys out to be threats, because, right, scoring 13 points, you're not a threat. Right? Not that 13 points is anything to sneeze at. I'd love to score 13 points in an NBA game. But at that level...
You're not Karl Anthony Towns who, quote, changed the game.
Exactly.
End quote.
Well, what if you, this is obviously going to be, a super outrageous, and I understand if I just get buried for this idea. Here's an idea for your next game. Limit Ant Edwards' minutes. Limit his minutes. It's a best of 3, so you have a game to throw away. Switch up the look you give the Nuggets. I'm not saying take him out, but limit his minutes. Get everybody else going.
Would you take Kobe out?
Yeah, no.
Would you take Jordan out?
No, but at this point, though, you just dropped a 2-0 lead in a series, and you are in Minnesota. You just dropped a 2-0 series lead, and what you're doing isn't working because the Timberwolves strategy, it looked the same for 4 games.
Well, sometimes it is that where you just have an off night. You're just not there. Game 3, Ant Edwards settled. He settled for threes. He wasn't attacking the rim, but you can't. No, you're not gonna take Ant Edwards out.
But I feel like that's the kind of thinking that you have to do, and obviously, that's probably not the solution. I'm gonna just go out on a limb, so that's probably not the solution. But you have to come up with something. You need some sort of outrageous strategy now that no one is going to see coming because the Nuggets have your number. It's a best of 3 series now, but momentum is clearly with Denver.
It was clearly with Minnesota before. So it shifts game to game.
Yeah,
it can do that. I think I said this last week that I think Ant Edwards feeds off of opposing crowds. I think maybe that Minnesota team might feed off opposing crowds too. Sometimes when you come home, everyone's singing your praises, everyone's loving you. You come out a little flat and you get humbled. I think they got humbled.
But that's not good enough, though. If you want to
teams
talk
lose.
About, if you want to talk about a team that, if they win this series, right? If they find a way to win 2 of the next 3 games, that's not good enough. That's not good enough to be able to not perform and play your best basketball in your house.
Well,
that's not a championship.
A loss is a loss. It doesn't really matter. You just move on to the next one.
Yeah, maybe the boy's right that a guy like a Gobert who plays the villain a lot wants that, that the heel moment.
You bringing up Gobert.
Well, because he 4-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year, tied for the most ever with
Ben Wallace, right?
Mutombo, and was it Ben Wallace?
I think Ben Wallace has 4.
So yeah, that's the thing though is he. I bring him up because he's the neutralizer. He's the guy who's guarding their guy. And he just won the award for best defender. He's the best at doing that in the world right now.
And then he got punched in the mouth.
Exactly. So
2 games in a row.
Yeah. Well, that is more, I think, a testament to how good Jokic is because he does not get enough credit. But 3-time MVP doesn't get enough credit. It's weird to say, but it's true. He doesn't get that credit. So it just shows how good and effective he is that he, like you said, punched the defense,
I actually
4-time
think that's
defensive player
accurate.
of the year in the mouth. What?
It sounds so weird to
Yes.
say the 3-time MVP doesn't get enough credit, but I think it's accurate. They've been looking to give that award to someone other than Jokic.
Yes.
They keep saying like I mean all the talking heads are like, oh, it should have been Gilgeous Alexander or whatever.
Well, because they have
No,
to reach into this hat and find. They have to reach into their the depths to find players that are eligible for it. Joel Embiid was the front runner, but he got hurt.
They're not reaching into.
LeBron's not doing as well as he used to be. I mean,
no,
It's
they're
not.
looking for other people to
Yeah,
take it from Jokic. Jokic is the best player.
Yeah, because it creates it's beneficial more to the whole league, right? What's more beneficial to your league's exposure? Having one guy win 7 straight MVPs, or having
yes.
MVP awards spread out through 7 different teams in 7 different markets, splitting the different conferences, right? That's what's, you
I mean,
want.
LeBron
They're
hasn't
looking
won
for
it.
that.
LeBron hasn't won it in like what 10 years or something.
Yeah,
And you could have. There was a point where you could have given it to LeBron every single year.
Like Steph Curry could have won it. And I think that's part of it too, is, especially in basketball, a sport that's so awards driven through statistics, right? It's more about like what your numbers say. You become a victim of your own success in a lot of ways, where you put up numbers like Jokic did, and it's like, okay, well, for him to win it again, he's got to outproduce those numbers, right? It's kind of Ohtani's curse as well. For Ohtani to win again, ho-hum, he only had a 3.5 ERA. That's still insane when you couple it with his 40 home runs. But he'll be looked at as, well, he has to hit 50 home runs to win MVP, right? I think you see a little bit with that with Jokic, almost like we are not appreciating the greatness we're seeing. He's arguably the greatest big man in the history of basketball. And that's, again, I use the word hyperbolic. That's not that hyperbolic to say that he might be the best big man ever. It's not that crazy, especially if he's able to come back in this series, lead them to another title. He's in rarefied air. So, we do underappreciate him. We don't, because sometimes it's hard to appreciate the genius in the way he plays because it doesn't jump out at you. He's not throwing dunks over people.
Hilarious. Seeing him out there, like, who is this guy?
And the jump shot almost looks a little off at times, but it's so effective. You can't argue with it. And he doesn't turn the ball over. He shoots such a high percentage. He's literally playing perfect games out there.
I've heard the best comp for him is Larry Bird.
Really?
Yeah, he's just bigger. I mean, think about his passing ability. He's got that weird shot.
White?
No, but just he's got this weird shot. He doesn't move very fast.
No, he doesn't.
And his passing ability is off the charts.
Oh, Lordy, coming.
Yeah, but I mean that's again why I brought up Rudy Gobert so much, is because it's his job to limit the effectiveness of all things Jokic, not just his ability to score, but his passing, his rebounding, his outlet passes, his cuts, the picks he sets, right? You're trying to limit all those things. At the same time, too, if Gobert can produce on the offensive end, he's going to make Jokic work on the defensive end, which could tire him out. On the flip side, you have that punch-counterpunch thing going, too. So that's why, that series is fascinating to me. That's why it was fascinating before it started. Now it being a best of 3 is amazing, right? It's fun. That's what we want. I still think the T-Wolves will take it. I still think that they have the ability. And if they can, like we talked with the Rangers, their adjustments may be more mental than X's and O's. They need their supporting cast: Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Karl Anthony Towns. Those guys need to step up and put the ball in the bucket. Take some of that pressure off Anthony Edwards. Kamala, to your point before, I don't necessarily think limiting Edwards' minutes is going to do anything. And the biggest reason is less about his scoring and more about his defense. He's such an excellent on-ball defender. You need him out there to help neutralize Jamal Murray, right? Or whoever, or Michael Porter, whoever else he's guarding, to try to take those guys away. And that's part, if you were to take him out, you may take him out of his rhythm, to be honest. Like the way you give batters in a rhythm, playing the field and coming out, Harden to adjust being a DH, that may be the adjustment mentally for him. It'd be hard to come out and get his rhythm back. So I don't necessarily think that's the issue. He's young enough. Shouldn't be an issue there. But I think T-Wolves' adjustments may be more mental, more mindset, more heart than it is anything X's and O's out there. Like, you got punched in the mouth. How do you respond? Championship teams respond to this. The Nuggets, you just saw, you got a master class in how to respond from the team you're playing, right?
100%.
How do we do this? How do we flip
How many ESPN analysts wrote that series off as a sweep after game 2?
Oh, so many.
Does it matter?
They disrespected the champs, and the champs did what champs do.
Yeah,
they came back and win, and momentum on their side, swinging back to their home court now.
Yeah, I mean, I could also see that they would want they don't want to see Jokic win. They don't want this boring player to keep winning, to keep doing these things, because in their mind, he's not entertainment.
Well, he's also not American. That's another thing that doesn't get pointed out. Is we're okay. We're okay.
NBA draft either.
We're okay with the European guy getting one championship. Dirk's championship, we're okay with that, right? We're okay with Jokic getting his championship, Giannis getting his championship. But in America, right, we're watching American coverage of this sport. It stands out more and has more resonance with the American crowd when it's an American dude winning. Anthony Edwards being the American kind of carries that with him more, right? Karl Anthony Towns being American, but Jokic going out there being Serbian, Jamal Murray being Canadian, right? It doesn't have the same effect as if you, I mean, heck, the same thing would be said with the Mavs for this year with Doncic, right? It's Slovenian out there. It doesn't have the same.
It's probably why him and Jokic get along so well too.
Why? Because they're from the same part of Europe.
They share that commonality that they're foreigners who I feel like that they probably feel and notice that they don't get the respect or the attention that they deserve.
What I love about Jokic though is that he doesn't care.
Yeah,
no,
he just wants to win.
No, he doesn't, because he knows how good he is.
Mm-hmm. He goes. I play.
If no one else wants to enjoy that, that's on them.
Yeah, I don't know if he cares that much about winning or doing anything. He just, I'm good at basketball. It's fun, and then I go home to my horses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my when I was a little girl in Poland, we all had ponies. My sister had pony.
I hate anyone that has a pony.
Yeah. Anything else playoff wise before he spits his drink into the camera?
Yeah, I got just a question, and I'm curious to see what you guys think. As we're recording this, Knicks Pacers are playing right now.
And my Pacers, I'm just wearing the jersey.
Where they're at in their game is very similar to where the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark are in their game. Which do we think has more viewers right now?
I'd like to say the playoff game, but
Caitlin Clark's WNBA debut or playoff basketball?
It's the Knicks, so I'm going the Knicks. Because if it wasn't, if it was Thunder Mavs, if it was that series, I would say Caitlin Clark. But because it's the Knicks,
yeah, I could see that being an X factor as well.
I think, and again, I agree with you. I agree with you to an extent. I think it being New York is the X factor. But I also saw that Thibodeau's been kind of getting eviscerated in the headlines. I think Caitlin Clark is going to pull more viewers tonight.
Could see that. I'm
gonna look it up and I'll report.
I was thinking about watching that more than I was watching the Knicks Pacers game, to be honest.
If we weren't doing this right now, I'd probably have the Fever game on if I could find it.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on, we're gonna get a little into more baseball news and notes. Just had a couple things that I thought were worth talking about. The first one. Your boy Giancarlo Stanton had the hardest hit ball of the year this past week, a 119.9 mile per hour, 447-foot homer that he pulled like right down the line into the upper deck, which is obscenely difficult. Yeah, I mean, to get out of the way of that, it's going 120 miles an hour. I was just reading something. They're now tracking like bat speed and bat path, right? They have the cameras to do that. And Stanton has by far the fastest bat speed. Like, it's not even close. It's like 5 miles an hour more than the next person almost. And it's like over 80 miles an hour is his average bat speed. And I think like to be really fast is like 75. So he's that much higher.
A big dude.
And so he has when he hits the ball harder than anyone in the world. It's just he also has one of the longest swing paths. Part of that's because his height, like because he's 6'6", right? So he's physically going to be longer no matter what, right? But it's also he has some mechanical issues in his swing, which everyone's known for a while, and that's kind of when you couple those things. He's at this point a league average hitter hitting 230, but has the hardest swing of anyone.
This down, pal.
Nope, Cosmo, it's not. Next thing I had there, staying in New York, the Atlanta Braves threw 8 2/3 no-hit innings against the Mets in Citi Field, not Shitty Field, and 8 of those innings were from Max Fried, the Braves ace. But they lost their no-hitter 2 outs in the 9th inning when JD Martinez hit an incredible opposite field homer to get rid of that. And
that was his first
shutout.
Of the
there
year
goes
too.
The no-hitter. Yeah, it was first of the year. There goes the no-hitter. There goes the shutout.
No.
Braves wound up winning, though. But the next night, the Mets got their revenge. Brandon Nimmo, I think only ball player from the great state of Wyoming,
dude is so fast,
hit a walk-off 2-run homer against A.J. Minter. So it was a lefty-on-lefty matchup, and A.J. Minter's a really, really good reliever for the Braves. He took him deep for a 2-run walk-off homer against Atlanta on Sunday night. The Dodgers, they went ahead and beat the Marlins, and if you blinked, you missed the game because they won 3-1 in an hour and 55 minutes. Less than 2 hours this game took. Full 9-inning game. It was the shortest full 9-inning game since 2003. So
everyone had dinner reservations or something. That's
we gotta get going. Time is money, right? I bet Angel Hernandez was back there calling pitches 12 feet out of the strike zone for
Did he have strikes.
That game? No, I actually don't know, but that it's possible, right? I got to think that maybe his games. Well, no, his games probably don't take a short amount of time because people spend the whole time arguing with him. Because
if there's an ejection, that's gonna really drag the game out.
He's a idiot, and I have no issue saying that. The next thing I got there, the University of Georgia's Charlie Condon, who at this point is the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 overall pick in the MLB draft. He just broke the NCAA single-season home run record in the BB Core era. BB Core is a different type of like a composite barrel that they now have to use in the metal bats. With his 34th home run of the year against South Carolina this past week, he broke the record that had only stood for a year by our boy Jack Caglione that he had last year. But Condon also homered in 8 straight games leading up to it, which was one away from Caglione's record that he tied with, I think, Tyler Bossetti from Nevada, hitting in 9 straight.
He's been mashing it, Snail.
So many vowels.
Mashing it, Snail. I'm not done with those names, Kamlo, because that brings me to the trivia question of the week. All right, we just said Condon has the record for the BB Core era. Who has the single-season home run record in Division I baseball overall and the whole history of it?
Oh my gosh, I think is it Larry Walker? Is that?
Do you really think Larry Walker?
No, they were
the Canadian
Todd Helton or something.
It's going to be someone with a lot of vowels in their name.
No, it is not Todd Helton. Single season home run record.
Single season. Roberto Alomar.
Shut the hell up.
That's so good. Good guess.
Did I get it?
No.
Oh.
It's a terrible guess. Did Roberto Alomar even play college? I doubt. I don't even think he played in college.
Somebody finally got your.
Who was the one that won the Golden Spikes Award, and then the next year as a rookie got Nolan Ryan, Robin Ventura. That's who it is.
Ventura. That's a great guess. You're as close as you're ever going to get. Because
I had the wrong. I was thinking about the wrong guy.
This
Robin
played
Ventura is who I was thinking
at the same college as Robin Ventura at Oklahoma State. I think right before Robin Ventura as well. It is Pete Incaviglia.
Yeah, there's another. No way I was getting that. I have no
another
idea who that
Paisan. He hit 48 for Oklahoma State. Incaviglia, actually, he was in a couple of statistics recently because just like our boy Paul Skenes went straight to the pro or the show, basically not a lot of time in AAA or the minors. So did Incaviglia when he came out, went straight to the pros. I think he was up there because Wyatt Langford on the Rangers was on that same graphic of least amount of time in the minors between getting drafted and going to the pros. Pete Incaviglia might be the record for that, actually. He was just a big old paisan up there hacking away with a 2x4, just trying to mash homers. But yeah, 48 for Oklahoma State back in the day. Luis Arraez, 2-time batting champ, got just traded to the Padres last week. He had a walk-off over the Dodgers on Friday for a 2-1 victory. And the last thing I got here, another walk-off because we love walk-offs, but the Giants' Casey Schmidt, his first hit of the year was a walk-off in the 10th inning for the Giants to beat the Reds on Sunday. So that's a great way to get your first hit. Anything I missed baseball-wise before we...
Yes.
Is this about
Stevie,
your O's?
Stevie, I'm sure you have something, but it's probably going to be better than mine. So if you don't mind,
go ahead. You go.
I'm going to let the closer close.
Oh, that's bold because I don't think I have anything. I think Nick took all of mine.
Okay.
Right.
Number. Well, so on that Arraez thing, remember Arraez. We talked about it last week, and we talked about the Padres making the postseason and all that. I found a website that charts that stuff. Prior to that trade, the Padres had like a 35% chance and were like in the mix to, like, it was heads or tails pretty much whether or not they were going to make it. They had like a 35% chance. The day of that trade shot up to like 56% chance.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think that's a coincidence. But anyways, I think you missed something there in New York, Nick. I'm going to give you a couple stats, and you tell me if you know who I'm talking about.
Juan Soto.
17.1 innings pitched.
Oh, Clay Holmes.
15 hits, 3 walks, 0 earned runs, 21 strikeouts, 12 saves.
Yep, Clay Holmes. He's the last qualified reliever to not give up an earned run this year.
0.00 ERA.
I mean,
that's in a time when, like, I'm sure a lot of Yankees fans were writing their season off when Garrett Cole went down. I feel like the vibes in New York City for the Yankees were not good. Their bullpen has been fantastic. And Clay Holmes, what a stat line, dude. That's insane.
Yep.
I thought for sure you would have had that. I think that's insane.
I was looking at that, and for whatever reason, I didn't put it down, but I did read the whole thing about him, and yeah, 0.0. So cool. It's the same GPA as Flounder from Animal House. 0.0 is drunk, fat, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. The Clay Holmes of college. Flounder.
And then I also heard a rumor that the Yankees might be looking to fill that Garrett Cole void by trading for Framber Valdez from Houston. Have you guys heard that?
I haven't heard it, but that would be a nice pickup.
It would, but that would require Houston to pull the plug this early on their season. And
they're not going to.
They've been dreadful, but you talk about championship pedigree. We were looking at that before. That's who they have. They have all of those guys that have won.
Know, like, what would the Yankees have to give up for that?
It's probably too much. It's probably not like they would. They probably have to give up. What's his face? The Spencer Jones, is that the left-handed hitter, the lefty judge in their minor league system? They'd have to give him up, and he was the reason they didn't get Corbin Burns. Is because that's who Milwaukee wanted. Spencer Jones or it wanted their top pitching prospect. And they're like, no, we're not going to do it. But those guys, ratings-wise, were at the same level as the people who the Orioles gave up. And they're like, okay, take them. We've got 30,000 other guys that these guys won't jump. So you can have them. This isn't going to hurt us at all. So it was such a steal for the O's to get Burns. And, you would think the Yankees would want to give up their 6th outfielder to have Corbin Burns, but they said no on Spencer Jones. So that's probably who they would have to give up, is someone like that, the big lefty bat who's, I think, last time I checked, been producing in the minors. Spencer Jones has. But yeah, Clay Holmes, pretty amazing. Another thing with Arraez that I read today as well is that bat tracking system with the swing speeds and swing paths. Arraez has like the slowest bat speed, really? But he has the highest barrel percentage. He hits the ball on the barrel, the sweet spot, more than anyone else, but swings slower than anyone else. and has like the shortest swing.
Because he's controlled. He's not a home run hitter. He doesn't strike out. He's a controlled hitter.
Yes.
That's why
he's barreling the ball up more than anyone else. Like hitting it hard on the sweet spot more than anyone else.
I do have one.
Oh, go ahead.
I do have one baseball thing. The 30-year-old rookie from Chicago out of Japan, Shota Imanaga. You know what his ERA is?
He's fueled on Malort.
I'll give you a hint. It's fueled on Malort, yeah. His ERA is under 1. It's .96. He's given up 5 earned runs on the year.
Is that good?
That's nuts.
It's slightly good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's wild.
Like you said, it's all that Malort. Jefferson's
it's not zero,
Malort.
though.
Yeah, it's not zero.
One last thing baseball related before we move on, Nick. We talked about him a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to bring him up one more time just as like a check-in to see what you guys think, see if you've been tracking. Ellie De La Cruz, 25 stolen bases in 27 attempts. People are thinking he's going to steal 100.
I would love to see it.
That'd be pretty
amazing. He'd be the first person since
Ricky
1987.
It should be Ricky Henderson.
To steal 100?
That has to be Ricky Henderson. There's no way that's anyone else. That statistic. Unless it's Eric Davis, that would be the only other person I could think of. But I would be willing to bet it's Ricky Henderson.
Ricky Henderson, last person to steal 100 bases in 1980.
Oh my God, Ricky Henderson's stolen base numbers.
Yeah, you've never just started. They're insane.
He had let's see, 1980 100, 1982 130, 1983 108.
What the hell were catchers doing back in the day?
Hey, Ricky be Ricky, man.
No, he would get on first base and he would say,
"There's a triple.
I'm stealing. What you gonna do about it? You're not gonna do anything about it." And
Willie Mays Hayes.
On my way to the Hall of Fame.
That's my last baseball thing, Nick.
Yeah, I love it. Speaking of Willie Mays Hayes, I saw something great the other day, and it was like comparing the Oakland A's to the Major League Cleveland, and because it was like, owner strips the team brings in all these has-beens to try to relocate them, has a rookie fireballer out of the bullpen throwing 100 miles an hour. Mason Miller,
he's
is that his
awesome.
name?
Yeah,
he's
Mason
awesome,
Miller's
right?
Awesome.
And team is somehow around 500 and contending.
Good.
And it was the comparisons to Major League and the A's because
that's funny.
That's what's going on.
I like that.
But yeah, I thought that was good too. That'll do us for baseball. I'm moving on to soccer or football, as they say across the pond. A couple of good updates for us. The first one, the UCL UEFA Champions League. The final is set after Real Madrid's Draisaitl. He scored twice against Bayern, so they would advance 4-3 on aggregate. His goals were really late, 88th minute and in the 91st minute or 90th plus 1 minute of stoppage time at the end. And so those two goals were able to push them over the edge against Bayern, and that set up a final against Dortmund. And it's the first time Dortmund's in the UCL final since 2013. So that should be interesting. That's a very interesting matchup, Madrid versus Dortmund. Would have been kind of cool to see Bayern and Dortmund might have that bad blood going there, but
Super League teams.
Yep. But Madrid we'll see if they can, raise
They're
two trophies.
Add to their trophy case.
Exactly, raise 2 trophies this year, get a double because they already clinched La Liga. We talked about that last week. Our boys, Bayer Leverkusen, they extended their unbeaten streak in all competitions to 50 games. They haven't lost in 50 games. They won 5-0 over Bochum over the weekend.
Has that ever been done?
50? You know what? That's a good question for us to try to find. I don't know. I got to assume because I didn't see anything saying that this is a record that someone's done it before. Like, I got to think way back in the day, there's probably some club that was just so dominant and had so many more resources than anyone else. They're just running over people for like 3, 4, 5 straight years. But modern day wise, in the last like 10 or so years, I don't remember anyone going 50. 50.
They broke the record when they had 49.
So record altogether all years ever. That's amazing. 50, 50. Again, it's not 50 straight wins. It's 50 times not losing, which means you can tie. You can tie.
What is this?
But But that's most of those times they're winning games. I mean, they've been stomping people like they did this week, 5-0. They've just been blowing people out. So Xabi Alonso, the manager's got to be looking at a big raise at some of these top clubs. Maybe in Manchester United, who's had some turmoil with Ten Hag in charge, and they may try to get his butt out of there. Speaking of Premier League, we're approaching the last week of the Premier League season. Arsenal, they won 1-0 over the aforementioned struggling Manchester United. And that guarantee that the Premier League will come down to the final day because Arsenal's at 86 points. They have one game left. Manchester City just beat Tottenham today 2-0. And that put them at 88 points. So we head into the final day of the regular season, of the season because they're going to playoffs. We head in the final day with City sitting at 88, Arsenal at 86. City will take on West Ham. Arsenal has Everton. And basically, City controls their fate. If they win, it's over. If they tie, because again, boy, you can tie in this sport. If they tie and Arsenal wins, they would be level on points. And at that point, Arsenal would claim the title because they will sit at a better goal differential because heading into this final week, Man City's goal differential is plus 60, but Arsenal's is plus 61. So again, a tie for City leaves that differential the same. A win for Arsenal obviously increases that differential, but City control their destiny, and they're looking for an unprecedented fourth straight Premier League title. All this under Pep Guardiola. You talk about machines. They have been a machine. I mean, just all up and down their lineup, especially.
That's a hell of a coach.
I mean, the Pep system is phenomenal. It's free, easy flowing. It's fast. It's fun to watch, and it's produced results. I mean, it doesn't help that it doesn't hurt that they have all the resources in the world. They spend, I would say, they probably spend more than any other club maybe in the world, but at least in the Premier League. And it doesn't hurt, but Pep's been able to navigate that and set themselves up for another trophy. 4 straight. You've won 4 straight of anything. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It's nuts. But that was my last soccer thing. Anything else, Kamlo?
You'll shout out Pep again real quick because I think, and this wouldn't be the first time that we've talked about, a coach just having their pick of the litter. Obviously, like where Pep's at and what he's brought to Manchester City and their football club. Everyone wants to play for him. This shouldn't be a mystery to anyone why, but kind of like, again, to shout out UConn, what we see, and like with UConn, Alabama, all these successful teams over here in America, it's not about finding the most highly touted, highly recruited guys. It's about finding your guys, right? Finding guys that'll fit your system. And Pep has navigated all that. I mean, to pretty much have a team with carte blanche, Kate Blanchett, and to consistently produce greatness like this. I mean, it's insane. Again, we're in an era where we're surrounded by great sports moments and history in the making, and people need to take a minute to appreciate it.
Yep, I agree. I like it. Moving on, before we get to our final and our favorite category for the day, a little lacrosse lax update, because the men's and women's NCAA lacrosse is into the quarterfinals, so the final 8 for each side. So from the women's side, number 1 Northwestern is going to take on number 8 Penn this weekend. Number 2 Boston College versus Michigan. Number 3 Syracuse versus number 6 Yale, and number 4 Maryland versus Florida. The round out your final 8 for the women. But it's also worth noting that Northwestern, again the number 1 overall seed, Izzy Skenes, she set the Division I scoring record overall career goals.
Good name.
With 359. She got her 359th goal this past week in their victory. So she just set the Division I scoring record. And what's interesting is she wasn't the only one who broke the record. On the men's side, Peyton Cormier from
UVA?
From UVA.
Okay.
Set the men's D1 scoring record. His was his 222nd.
Mini back.
For yeah. Thank you for that. For those people who don't know, that is something you'll hear yelled all the time, because in lacrosse you can't have more than 6 people on one side of the field. So you always have to have someone back. But yeah, Peyton Cormier, 222nd career goal. It's kind of amazing. Skenes 359. She has what is that? 137 more goals career wise on the women's side than the men's side for the career scoring mark. But men's, you've got number 1 Notre Dame plays number 8 Georgetown. Notre Dame's only loss this year was, guess to who?
UVA.
No, Georgetown. So they're literally playing the only team that took them down this whole year. Georgetown won 11-10 in overtime in February. So that's a really, really interesting matchup there. Number 2 Duke takes on number 7 Maryland. Crab cakes and lacrosse. That's what Maryland does. Number 3 Johns Hopkins. Johnny Hopkins takes on number 6 UVA. Number 4 Syracuse takes on number 5 Denver, and that rounds out your top 8 there for the lacrosse side. Any other midi back, long pole, fogo,
deep hole
jargon you want to throw out there?
No, that was a good
one. That's all I got.
No, I'll say another one if you wanted another wisecrack. Notre Dame's goalie, best goalie in the country, I think was number 1 overall pick in the Premier Lacrosse League draft, the PLL draft. Liam Entenmann, he's phenomenal.
The donuts?
I was about to say, I love his coffee cake.
Yeah, he not only does he have a display at the end of the aisle, but he's been shutting down everyone and anyone who gets around to him. So yeah, Liam Entenmann, look for the display, the coffee cakes, those chocolate-covered donuts, but also look for his performance against Georgetown to be an X factor there. Anything else before we get to the end? No. All right, that's going to bring us to our favorites section.
Dead air.
Thank you. I was trying to fit that in somewhere.
It's like a 3-second clip. You started talking after 2.
Well, go ahead, hit it again. We might as well give the people what they want.
Dead air.
Thank you, Frank. So our favorites section this week is on our favorite unsung heroes so far of the playoffs. So unsung hero really up for interpretation, but basically guys who have surprised you, who, maybe their roles aren't the big thing, but they've made such a big impact, or guys who have exceeded, expectations. Like maybe they're a pretty good player in the regular season, but have just shown out for the playoffs. So Aaron, want to start?
Yeah.
I'll go.
You want to go? Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm going to take you through my picks 5-1. I don't have an honorable mention this week. Number 5, Miro Heiskanen. I think he's a world-class defender, young kid. I think he's 23 years old. He's averaging over 27 minutes on the ice, but I think he kind of falls by the wayside. I think that what he's contributing to this team, not just the couple of goals that he has, but the helpers that he has as well. He's finding ways to score, assist the team, and defend on the other side of the ice. I think Miro Heiskanen needs a little more attention. Number 4, Derek White of the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum, I think, said it best in a post-game interview, is that Derek White brings a lot of intangibles onto the floor on the defensive side of the ball. He's not a guy that's going to give you a whole lot of points, but the role that he has on that team, point guard and one-on-one defender, he plays it beautifully. Tatum called him a defensive anchor, and I really like that, especially in a league where scoring and showmanship is king. The defensive players outside of Knicks' Rudy Gobert don't really, I think, get the shout-out or the praise they deserve. So I wanted to shout out Derek White for his defensive performance in his series so far. Number 3, I'm going to take it up to the Oilers. I'm going to shout out Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
The Nuge.
I think if your last name isn't Draisaitl or McDavid on that team, it's so easy to get lost and have your contributions, I don't want to say minimized, but not get the praise or the attention they deserve. Nugent-Hopkins adds so much depth, and he's been a consistent player in the league for so long that he's finally on a team where he has a great core of capable players around him. And I think that he kind of gets lost in the depth. He's a top 6 player You'll see he's definitely line 1, line 2 caliber. And I just always loved watching the guy play, so I'd love to see him get a little more love. I think his role that he plays, he doesn't really get the praise or the spotlight.
Former number 1 overall pick, right, Conlo, I believe?
Correct. He went to the Islanders, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I thought it was Oilers. I thought he's been on the Oilers his whole career.
Was it?
Mm-hmm. He was
Maybe.
there.
I'm going to keep going with my list. Somebody interject and look that up. You might be right, though. Number 2, Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes, not the other Aho. I'm going to shout out Carolina's Aho. I think he's just a rock-solid playmaker. The passes that this guy makes and the vision that he has on the ice. Again, he's on a team where, again, it's a scorer's league, so I don't really think the assists get a whole lot of attention, but I think Aho is he's one of my favorites to watch. I mean, down in Carolina, I love watching that guy play. The stuff he produces and the way he grinds through every play, you would think it's his last shift of the night, the way he plays. And then number 1, this is a guy that has exploded in the last year. He has a pretty long career so far and a lot of accolades to his name. Brock Besser of the Vancouver Canucks. 7 goals in 11 games. One of them was or 3 of those goals were a hat trick in a previous series to force overtime that they ended up winning. He's proven to be a guy that Vancouver can lean on, that they can depend on, and flat out his play is winning them games. I honestly think that what he's producing and the caliber of play, the level of play that he brings out on the ice is one of the main reasons they're ahead in their series against Edmonton. And he's playing for Vancouver. I think his name unless he's front and center scoring, his name gets lost because he's an American playing on a Canadian team surrounded by a lot of Canadians and foreign talent. And he gets lost in the matchup. They're not going to talk about Brock Besser with Connor McDavid, Draisaitl on the ice, or if they're talking about Silov in the goal. You know what I mean? I think that Brock Besser is my number 1 because the guy is fun to watch. I made it a point to stay up and watch one of their more recent games. And I love Nick. I think you would really like the way this guy plays too. If you actually maybe you have.
I am familiar. I am familiar.
I mean, the way this guy plays, it's electric. It's the kind of hockey that we want to see. That's my list.
Nice.
Thank you.
Love it. All right.
I'll hang up and listen.
Hang up and listen. Yeah.
Yeah, your turn.
All right. My turn. I'm going number 5, PJ Washington from the Dallas Mavs. In their 2 wins, he had 27 and 29, I believe. I think he's the 3rd, 4th, or even 5th option to score. Without him, they probably would be down 3-1 or something. Next one, TJ McConnell at 4. He does all the dirty work you want. He's guarding he's got the toughest matchup right now, guarding Jalen Brunson, who does not stop working. TJ McConnell matches him step for step. Defensive intensities sometimes lost in the NBA, but he's been awesome. He's been a gritty grinder. Number 3, Alexis Lafreniere. I think when he plays well, the Rangers play well. He is fun to watch with his speed. I love watching. He banked it off of Freddie Anderson for one of the goals in Game 4, I think.
Former number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's almost like Laflemme from Goon, right? You're kind of waiting for him to kind of show his talent. Number 2, one of my favorites now after watching the Florida-Boston series, Sam Bennett. Absolutely. How can you not love this guy? Boston fans cry harder. That little rat Marchand goes for a cheap shot against him. He's ready for it. Gives it right back to him. Knocks him out. I think he separated his shoulder. They haven't said what it was, but it looks like he probably separated his shoulder.
Watch him fall. He's knocked out. He's out.
Yeah. Give him a little something extra, and then bullies his way to a game-tying goal. And Boston's so upset. He's bullying Boston. And I think it's great to see. Number 1, Josh Hart from the Knicks. I said it last week. I think it was one of the more impressive individual performances in just effort alone in that series. Being able to lead the playoffs in rebounds at 6'4" is impressive. He has a motor. He doesn't stop. I think he got his first rest. Game 4, game 3?
I think
Got his first
3.
rest for like 3 minutes of the series. I would turn on a Knicks game just to watch him.
Nice.
Yep. I love it. So I went with 3 from basketball, 3 from hockey, kind of like my 3 stars. I was going to use Valeri Nichushkin. That's what I had written down. And then I was like, well, can't do that. You just abandon your team because of whatever those nose clamps may have gotten him. So in his place, though, who I was going to mention, also from the aforementioned Vancouver Canucks, was Nikita Zadorov, the big defenseman. As if you were paying attention to our favorites list of our defensemen a couple weeks ago, we love big bruising defensemen, and that's who he is. And he's been a great agitator, trash talker. You talk about a heel who thrives off of the hatred. He does, and he loves it and is unapologetic about it. But he's also offensively produced. He has 4 goals in the playoffs. He had 6 all in the regular season. He's got 4 already in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So, being able to contribute on both ends of the ice is huge for Vancouver. Next, I had Alexis Lafreniere, who the boy mentioned, talked about. He had 28 goals, 29 assists in the regular season, kind of his breakout campaign. Like Kamo said, a former number 1 overall pick that everyone's just waiting to see, right? And it felt like he was not intimidated, but like lost in terms of, what do I do? I went from being the dude to now I'm on a team with a Zibanejad, a Kreider, a Panarin. I'm not the top line dude. What do I do to be effective? And he's turned himself into their modern day Ryan Callahan. That's who he's become, is the grinder, the dude who's going to go out there and he's going to get that garbage goal. He's going to get that hit. He's going to get that poke check, that little play that helps change the game. He's been the glue for them in these playoffs. Next, I had Josh Hart, like the boys said. I put down, I thought it was game 3 was the first time he sat in that series. Maybe it was game 4, but the dude was playing. It shows how effective and how good you are, that you are. In the regular season, he averaged 9.4 points a game. It's not even 10 points a game. But you're that good at all the other things, and you make your team that much better that your coach can't take you out. That's how good of a player you are. And that doesn't show up on a stat sheet. But what does is that he has elevated those traditional stats. Regular season, like I said, 9.4 points a game, 8.3 boards, 4.1 assists regular season. A nice, good, solid role player. The playoffs, though, he's been at 15.6 points a game, 12.3 boards a game for a dude who, he's bigger than all of us, but he's not like 7 feet tall. He's probably, 6'6"?
He's 6'4".
He's 6'4". That's it. 12.3 rebounds for a guy who's 6'4", and 4.8 assists a game. He's been the Alexis Lafreniere for the Knicks. Like he's been that comparison, the glue, the guy that you have to have out there if you want to be successful. Next, I had Derek White, who Kamala mentioned. His 3-point shooting has been the big talking point because he had that one game where he had like 7 or so through, maybe even more than that. But his 3-point percentage during the regular season was about 39.6%, so about 40%. I think in the playoffs, it's not that much higher. It's about like 44%, so maybe a little lower than that. It's still a big difference, but he's been able to put the ball in the hoop, and he's averaging close to 20 points a game in the playoffs, which is a big difference. He was at about 15 a game in the regular season, so that extra little boost in percentage is that extra little 4 or 5 points, which can make a difference. And he's also contributing, like Colin said, on the defensive end. He's been a guy that's helped them, especially when we talked about the absence of Porzingis. He's a guy who can help provide extra scoring. He also provides a little hope for us people out there who are follically challenged as well. Next, I have Evan Mobley. Talked about him earlier. Evan Mobley's been awesome for the Cavaliers. Former number 2 overall pick, I believe, out of USC. He's still pretty young. And, during the regular season, I think he averaged close to a double-double, right? But we talk about Jarrett Allen not being there for them. That puts more pressure on Mobley, not just to score, because Allen he averaged a true double-double this year as well, but to be the rim protector, be the shot blocker, be the defensive anchor. And Mobley's been fantastic defensively. And what I've loved the most about his game is his movement without the ball. Right? In the modern NBA, it's really rare that you're going to get an opportunity to just post up. Hey, give me the ball. Everyone clear out. I'm going to back a dude down, do some moves, and that's how I'm going to score in the post. It's not going to happen, right? It's very few people ever get that opportunity twice a game. For a guy like Mobley, he's probably not going to get it. So his points have come from him running the floor, beating the other big man up the court, and also when there's penetration, finding the gap so that there's an easy dish to him for a bucket. He's finding those openings to give him those easy buckets. He's been moving so well without the ball. It's been a clinic as a big man, as a modern-day big man, of what to do and how to score and how to be productive and disruptive. And my number one person, I had Artur Silovs, the Latvian goalie from the Vancouver Canucks. He's been fantastic, right? We talked about this guy before, had barely any regular season experience. He's a third-string goalie, thrust into action, pitches that shut out in Game 6 over Nashville to advance to this next round, and has been just as good. Slamming the door. He's facing, like Kamala talked about, the goal scorers you got on the other side. McDavid and Draisaitl are arguably the best goal scorers in the league. And they're arguably the best 1-2 punch in the league. And Shilovs has been, standing up to them. Now, he hasn't been perfect by any means, but he's been really, really good. And for a dude with that little experience to be able to perform on at the biggest stage at the highest level like this is pretty amazing, especially at
the drop of a hat, too.
Yes, like, OS.
It's like Carolina tapping in the Zamboni driver that one time.
Yeah, okay. Whatever.
No, I'm saying, like, it's
dead air.
comparable.
Where's that?
No, I'm saying it's a good comparison, like 1 minute you're like, again, chewing on bonbons. The next minute you're starting goalie against the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my top guy was Shilovs. Anything else before we play us out?
Looking forward to this weekend, is college baseball rounds out their regular season. So then you'll get the regional matchups and the conference tournaments will start, and then the regional matchups will
PGA Championship.
PGA Championship.
Yeah, who you got before we go? Quick for the people.
Wyndham Clark.
Boy,
I'm taking Scotty. New dad strength.
I had two names. One was Wyndham Clark, so I like your pick, Kamala. So I'll have to go with Xander Schauffele. That was my other guy. I was looking
Mr. number 2?
Well, Xander was my number 1, but I was going to say those guys, when I was looking at the odds, I couldn't decide who I liked better. So I'll go with Xander if you're going to take Wyndham.
I'll take Wyndham.
And always root for my boy Brooksy to just shove it in everyone's face. Looking for him to go. But he is the defending champion by the way.
Defending champ.
This year's PGA held in Valhalla in outside of Louisville, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Kentucky.
Who was the last one to win at Valhalla
Rory.
Was it Rory?
That's his last major championship was the 2014 PGA Championship at Valhalla. He's been searching 10 years for another major. Pretty amazing. But yeah, that's going to do it for us here tonight. Big thanks. Shout out to the boy, the man. Shout out to everyone who's out there watching, listening to us. We appreciate your support. We love that you guys get to tune in, and we love being able to bring the show to you guys each week. Just a reminder, we're on YouTube and Spotify. Follow us on our socials at WCME Sports at WCME_sports, on Instagram and Twitter /X. Go to Facebook, follow us there. Go to our website, WCMEsports.com. Comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. But again, we appreciate you guys. As always, be decent to each other. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.